Hello everybody, and thank you for watching Drinking with Nerds. I'm Andrew, and this is Bar Shots. Cheers. So, my topic this week is gonna be what I think Disney should do with the X-Men film franchise once they get their hands on it. With that being said, I do feel like we need to address the Bryan Singer controversy going on right now, mainly because his name's going to be brought up a lot in this episode. We here at Drinking with Nerds are not a news channel, nor can I myself speak on behalf of the other two hosts, Alex or Don, even if I know or think I know their opinion on this matter or any other matter. What I can talk about is that I personally believe these allegations against Bryan Singer are unfortunately true. And this is largely due to the fact that these stories existed long before he won an award for Bohemian Rhapsody. And honestly, the fact that him winning an award was the only thing that brought this story into the mainstream media is just bullshit. But then again, we're not a news channel. This is my opinion. And this is also not the topic of my episode. No. The topic of this episode is simply that I think Disney should just reboot the whole X-Men franchise. Part of this is due to the fact that they need to distance themselves from Bryan Singer. But there's a ton of other reasons as well. Before I get into those though, I'm gonna just run down the X-Men movies real quick and give my opinion on a few of them. So X-Men came out in the year 2000, and in my opinion was just fantastic. I was 10 when that came out. And I think it was one of the most influential comic book movies of all time. Now, Blade did come out in 1998, so 2 years before that, but, my parents didn't let me go see Blade because I was 8. X-Men was a little bit more family-friendly, and therefore had a bigger audience. So that, in my opinion, made it more influential. A couple years later, X2 came out, another great movie. I am not a big Wolverine fan, but, who doesn't love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine? Unfortunately, though, they decided to then give the series to Burt Ratner, who is, in my opinion, garbage, as both a director and a human being. And Last Stand proves that. Last Stand is just a bad movie. You have Kelsey Grammer as Beast, which you think would be awesome, yet isn't. And you have Patrick Stewart coming back as Xavier. Again, has been awesome for 2 movies. Isn't. And it's just a bad movie. Honestly, it's top 3 worst movies of all time, in my opinion. Luckily enough, though, a couple years after that, a director by the name of Matthew Vaughn came along and came out with First Class, which, to me, is the best X-Men movie. And if you want to fight on that, you just tell me where to be. Then after that, for some reason, they decided to come out with Days of Futures Past, which was okay. But, it wasn't anything compared to First Class. And then Bryan Singer came out with Apocalypse, which was just god-awful. You know how I said Last Stand was my top 3 worst movie of all time? Well, number 1 is The Last Airbender. Number 2 is Apocalypse. Apocalypse was a huge waste of my time, which is sad because Oscar Isaac is Apocalypse. His name is in the title, and it was still a bad movie. James McAvoy was Xavier. Still a bad movie. Michael Fassbender was Magneto. Still a bad movie. How does that happen? But, either way, the second set of movies is definitely why they will not work in the MCU. And that is because First Class, while changed everything we knew about X-Men, X-Men that we know is Cyclops, Jean Grey, Iceman, Beast, and Angel. This one was Havoc, who's in the comics as Cyclops' brother, Mystique, Darwin, Banshee, and a different Angel. And, well, to me it worked. I'm a big believer of you gotta adapt the source material to the media you're doing, and if somebody wants the source material, you just have them go to the source material. So again, for me it worked. I think it was great, but it took place in 1962. Days of Futures Past then took place in 1973, so 11 years later, and even though they didn't have Havoc, Angel, Banshee, or Darwin in it, because Darwin kicked the bucket, it still had Mystique, Magneto, Xavier, and Beast, who all haven't aged a day. And while you can, just sweep that under the rug of, oh, well, it's just a sequel, the next movie, Apocalypse, takes place in 1983, so 10 years later. So it's been 20 years since First Class, and James McAvoy still looks the same age. And the guy who plays Beast still looks the same age. It just makes absolutely no sense. And to make matters worse, Havoc comes back with his brother Cyclops. Now Havoc in First Class has to be 16, probably more along the lines of 18. And in Apocalypse, Cyclops is about the same age as Havoc was in First Class. Keep in mind, there's a 20-year gap for this. So Havoc was at least 20 when Cyclops was born. And this is a big issue because Cyclops can't control his powers, because while his parents were flying over the Arctic or something, I forget exactly where, Cyclops had to jump out of the plane which was about to explode with his baby brother Havoc, and ended up hitting his head, protecting his brother, and losing control of his powers. In this, you would have to have Havoc, who is 20 years old at the time, jumping out of a plane with his baby brother and then dropping him on his head for him to lose his powers. It makes no sense whatsoever. Instead, I would just say Havoc is Cyclops' dad. Yes, in the comics, Cyclops' dad is Corsair, but, again, adapt to what you have. And then Phoenix is coming out, and it takes place in 1992, so 9 years after that, and they're supposed to be an experienced team of mutants saving the world, yet still don't look like they've aged a day. And so in itself, it just doesn't work. And in the MCU, it works even less, because in 1992, Cyclops would be 26. So when Iron Man happens, he would be like 40 almost. So what they need to do is just recast the whole thing and start from scratch. Now, that does seem like a lot of work, and unfortunately we do lose some good actors, because the one thing I can't take away from Apocalypse is the casting was good. The direction of that cast just wasn't. But the thing is, there's a lot of people out there that can play these parts. And the people who are playing the parts right now aren't hurting for work for the most part. Not to mention, Marvel has been known to just do some great casting. Tom Hiddleston is Loki. Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark. And Chris Evans is Captain America. So I have no doubt they will cast the Cyclops and the Jean Grey. Only one is Hugh Jackman is the Wolverine, no matter what. I doubt they can get him to come along, but, they can at least do a decent job filling his shoes. But then you also have to look at the fact that mutants don't exist at this point, it seems like. There are some ways you can do this. A lot of people are saying that Thanos' snap might have caused mutants in some roundabout way. A lot of other people are saying they should just go the ultimate route like they did with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, to where there are actually experiments of people trying to recreate the super soldier serum which created Captain America. Or you could just say they did exist, it's just they were a well-kept secret, because you know what? S.H.I.E.L.D. is good at keeping secrets. Or, hell, you can even say a bad batch of lettuce came along and infected people with mutism. Fact of the matter is, anything is better than bringing in the Fox mutants. Long story short is just, Disney needs to pretend like Fox doesn't exist and need to just start from scratch. Not all the way, because Spider-Man kind of has the whole hero who doesn't know what he's doing thing going, and to take that and give it to somebody else would be taken away from Spider-Man. But there's a lot of ways you can do a experienced team, or semi-experienced at least, bringing themselves forward. X-Men themselves could be like, hey, we were in the dark the whole time, but guess what? We want a better mutant-human relationship, so we're gonna bring ourselves to the light. I will say though, no matter what, I do think Marvel has this under control, and I can't wait to see what they do with it. So, that's my rant for today. Until next time. I don't have anything to cheers you with, but cheers.